Hey folks, on today's show, it's all about the kids, young people, and I believe that we will get a totally fresh perspective on mental health, and therefore, I don't mind giving up the conch.
Hello.
And welcome
to
Isolation
Nation.
I'm Jacob.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Hallie.
Hi, I'm Fern.
I'm Emily.
Are we going to get to talk or just do it 2 words at a time?
Yeah, what is this?
We do not stand for this.
We have rights, you know?
This is work to rule.
Whoa! Okay, if you want to say something more, then say something of substance, and you better make it good.
My mental health is important, and so is yours.
I will not be defined by my mental illness.
I think that my mental health is just as important as my physical health.
I've been hospitalized 15 times and I'm still kicking.
I lost my father to suicide and started a charity in honor of him.
Good stuff. Anything else?
Yeah, what's a conch?
Somewhat generational. Oh, okay. Apparently I was muted, but now I'm not muted. And anybody who wants to try to mute me, go ahead. Try. You can't shut me up. You know why? Because I talk about mental health, and me talking about mental health, even though I can be annoying at times and I can be a little bit aggressive, me talking about mental health is the best thing that I've ever done. But when I was a kid, I never spoke about my mental health ever. And I suffered from anxieties and I had these fears that dictated a lot of my life, but I would never have spoken about it. And I'm really happy to say that we have 5 young people here today who are going to do and have done what I couldn't do. And that is share their experiences with mental illness for the benefit of others. And they benefit as well, because when you keep a secret, it's never good. First up will be Fern, who, by the way, has a YouTube channel. Take a look.
Hey guys, it's Fern and Edison. I recently got my hair cut and dyed. It looks different, but I wanted to share my tips as for going to the hairdresser as an autistic person. Anyways, I hope this helps at least one person, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Edison, say bye. Say bye. Bye.
Edison, awesome. How are you, Fern?
That could be better.
You could be better. Okay, well, let's talk about that. First of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for sharing in advance. I think that you have had so much to deal with in your young life that people would almost think that can't be. You've been, well, tell us a little bit about you. I know you've been hospitalized 15 times.
Yes. I experienced severe trauma as a child and pretty much throughout my life. And that caused me to develop PTSD, dissociative identity disorder, as well as a host of anxieties and depressive episodes. And I go through periods of psychosis. That has led me through a journey of, self-harm and suicide attempts, and just it's been a train ride.
Yeah. The fact that you can speak about it all and kind of speak about it matter-of-factly, I think that's one of the good things about being young, is that, you haven't learned to be ashamed the way a lot of adults are. Do you find, because you mentioned a handful of illnesses, and I'm not even going to try, teach me how to say dissociative? Did I say it right?
Dissociative.
So I said it right.
Yes.
Okay, you have to give me that, because I told you how nervous I was about calling it disassociative, but it's dissociative. So thank you for teaching me that. You mentioned a couple of other challenges that you have, and you were saying that everybody talks about anxiety and depression now, but the other illnesses that you've experienced are seldom spoken about.
Yeah, it's like people don't want to talk about, especially psychosis and DID, because they're the illnesses that people make horror films about. And it's just been such a source of shame in my life. Like, even a few of my close friends are going to watch this and be surprised.
Really? What do you think will surprise them?
Just the fact that I'm in a place now where I can talk about it. Like since quarantine, like I have a lot of bad scars on my arm, like all over my body, but they're particularly bad on my arm, like self-harm scars. And since quarantine started, I haven't been wearing, like I haven't been covering them constantly. And sometimes people stare at me and I'm out in public. I'm not sure whether it's the service dog, the green hair, the crutches, the scars, I don't know. But I've just learned that they're not marks of my failure anymore. It's what I've survived through.
They're not marks of my failure anymore. It's what I've survived through. How brilliant is that? You were telling me you had a philosophy on life that you actually made up without really understanding it. So tell us about that.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I always wanted to write a memoir or like a book or something about myself. And it's called Life is Meaningless, but It Happens for a Reason. I've spent like hours, days, months just sitting in a psych ward and wondering, life is meaningless. This is stupid. Why am I still trying? And then some point in the past few months, I've come out and I said, happened for a reason. Don't know what the reason is, but it happened for a reason.
You know, you talked about how, you know, people would stare at you when you're out. I'm fascinated by, first of all, your courage. Second of all, your ability to do what you said you couldn't do before, and that is share your experiences. But if you were trying to blend in, you wouldn't dye your hair green. Why did you do that? I think it looks terrific, by the way. And I'm considering it. You know, do you think I should go with the green hair? What do you think?
I don't know. I think red, like bright red, would look good on you.
My daughter has not bright red hair, but has red hair. So why
strawberry blonde?
Strawberry blonde, she pointed out. So yeah, why'd you dye your hair green?
Well, actually, I dyed my hair green in the 9th grade. I always wanted colored hair. I don't know why. I have autism. I kind of lack that social awareness that other people have that makes them like afraid to be judged, I guess. And I decided I wanted green hair, and my mother said no, like absolutely not. And one day I just went to a friend's house and came home with green hair.
And what did your mom say?
My brother called me lettuce head for a while.
Lettuce head. Yeah. And were you okay with that?
Yeah, it's all right. There were things I could be called. I have been called.
So you were showing me before we went on. You were holding on to an object. Can you tell us what it is?
Yes, these are my STEM toys.
Okay, you got to say that. You got to say that again, and say it because I had no idea when you said it before what you were talking about.
Self-stimulatory behavior.
Okay.
It's the thing people with autism and like ADHD, we do it because our sensory needs are so different from neurotypicals, which is people that don't have, autism and things. I need something tactile in my hand. Sometimes I chew on things, like you notice me kind of rocking a little bit. That's all stimming behavior. It keeps me calm. It calms my nervous system.
I'm thinking that you should send me one, or, if we weren't in this stupid pandemic, I would come out there and get it. Although we could do that sometime in the future, because I was telling you before that when I get really anxious, I shake. And right now, a couple of days ago, I didn't do the show a couple of days ago because mentally I was not, I just felt really crappy. And it's funny how you have to cancel your show about mental illness because of your mental illness. There's a certain irony there, but I shake my leg when I'm really struggling, and it actually calms me down. But can you see me shaking right now? Oh my God, there's an earthquake. No. So I could probably use one of those things.
I've noticed over the past maybe 5 years, STEM toys have went from, people with disabilities and have spread to the world of people with mental illness as well. And I think that's great. As you know, the fidget spinner was a thing. It actually got banned in classrooms because neurotypical kids use them inappropriately. I still have my fidget spinners. I love them to death. But that's really what launched people getting used to, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I want that, because I have found that, I was so addicted to it because it made me less fidgety. Okay. This is amazing talk. I said this to you when we spoke on the phone. I said, you're able to describe your illness in such a mature, sophisticated way. And, when you said that you have autism, that shocked me. And that maybe is my lack of understanding of what autism really is. But I don't see a single sign of anything other than an exceptionally intelligent young woman with green hair.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of people say I didn't know. It's because what I put out on my social media and like what I put out online is not my meltdowns. It's not my, horrible days. I've been getting better. I've been putting some of my struggles out there, but like I don't put the harsh reality of it out there as much as I feel like maybe I should.
Well, let's continue to converse, you and I. Don't go anywhere. I want you to see the rest of the show. I want you to introduce you to my other new friends. But Fern, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Fern's going to hang out with Edison, and I'm going to hang out with Wrigley, who's down there beside me. And I am now going to introduce two guests that I believe, they're friends, obviously, because they're together. And I believe that they show us the benefit of having somebody who understands you. Ashley and Hallie, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell us what your diagnosis has been?
I have depression, OCD, and an eating disorder.
Wow, that's quite the lineup. And Ashley, how about you?
I have depression and OCD.
So the two of you are buddies. You go to school together, right?
Yeah.
Which one of you came out first?
I did. I was actually diagnosed in the fall. And so when me and Ashley and I have been friends for a long time, but only got really close after winter break, so January. And so when we started getting closer, I told her my struggles, and she was always there for me right from the start.
So you told her your struggles, and when did you, Ashley, tell Hallie, oh my gosh, wow, like kind of a Me Too thing?
Mm-hmm. Like, I think for me, like as soon as Hallie told me, like it made me realize that I wasn't alone, which was really comforting, because I was at first like very scared, I guess, to like say that I had depression, or like that didn't know why I was sad, and like I was seeing a therapist, and I was very like happy and appreciative that she told me, because then I told her basically immediately, and we were like constantly updating each other on like our like lives, and it's been really comforting, especially since we are going like we're both have like depression and OCD and are at the same school. So it's been really helpful because she came out to me first, and I think that it's very great that we're talking about it, because I really hope that people aren't afraid to talk about it, because at least for me, I was at the beginning. So. Yeah.
How about you, Hallie? Would this have been more difficult for you 6 months ago?
Oh, 100%. I remember specifically 6 months ago when I got home from overnight camp in August. I was at my worst. I was not surrounded by my friends constantly, which triggered like a full spiral downhill. And I didn't feel like I had the support of my friends, because I didn't tell anyone about how I was feeling. And so I just felt so alone. And then my mom had noticed that something was off, and she encouraged me to go see a psychiatrist and get a proper diagnosis so I could get medicated.
And how are you doing now? Ashley, you first.
So I was put on the depression medication, like a month and a half ago. And for me, it hasn't actually kicked in yet. So they've upped my dosage.
I'm frustrated just for you, because I've been on 7 different antidepressants in my life. And that period of waiting for the drugs to work, because, you're told in advance, it's going to take 3 weeks. it's so painful. And every minute, are you testing yourself? Because this is what I did. It would be like, am I feeling any better? You know, I should be feeling better by now. I'm not feeling any better. What's wrong? That's how I tortured myself.
Mm-hmm. I like I kind of like write down how I'm feeling day to day, like for like the meds to see if like I'm getting a change. But I think it was my psychiatrist thinks that I needed to up the dosage or wasn't high enough, and if it continues to not help, then we're switching, is what she told me. But it's been really frustrating, especially because I want to get better really badly, and I think if as soon as it kicks in, I know like a lot of people have told me that's a very big improvement when it does start to work, and I just want that for me.
How about you, Hallie? How are you doing?
I'm doing better than I feel like I ever have, especially like being surrounded by Ashley. But I started medication in October, and I was so lucky to have found the right fit, like right off the bat. So right away I noticed a like significant improvement, and then I was like, it kept me like it kept wanting me to push to get better and like up the dose and see how happy I could really get. So now I've like gotten to a routine of taking my medication every day and feeling good about it. And like, I'm so much more comfortable around my friends. I don't have anxiety with them. Like, I'm happy. I'm not worried about, like if I'm going to be sad at night. Like, I just have the support of my friends, and like the medication really helps as well.
For me, in my life, if I think of the most emotional moments for me, I think one of them was the first time I went on medication and I felt some relief. It was my wife and I were at the front of a restaurant, and I said to her, I'm going to the washroom. And I used to do that just to hide in the washroom, right? Because it was so painful to have to make conversation. I just wanted to get away. And as I was walking to the back of the restaurant, at a time in our history when restaurants used to be open and we could do things like go out for dinner. But by the time I got to the washroom, I went, I think I feel a little bit better. And that's, obviously something, Hallie, that you've experienced. And Ashley, I want that for you. And persistence is one of the toughest things, waiting, but it's the only way. And your attitude is great. You're waiting for this to work. And if it doesn't work, you'll try something else. But, that feeling of relief is something that you carry with you the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So let's move on to school. How many people, not how many, but what percentage of people in your circles know about your struggles, know that, for instance, you're both on medication, and know that you guys share this?
I'd say quite a few of my friends. I have a pretty close friend group at school, and I've told all of them, and there's a couple that I can go to whenever I need them. And it's really nice to have them.
Mm-hmm. For me, I would say like a lot of people do know. I know I've told like my guidance counselor and my learning support teacher too. So like, and a lot of my friends do know about it. And I think what's great too about our school, at least, is the teachers are very supportive about it. And if I need to go on a walk, because I get anxious or I'm just like not having a good day, they're like, okay, go for a walk, come like go to the nurse's office if you need to. And what's also really good is like, you're like, I'm allowed to like have like a friend come on a walk for me to like calm me down, which is really helpful. And I'm not really afraid to talk about it anymore as I was at the beginning.
It's such a blessing to have someone that's sitting beside you who understands you. And that's like the best way to ease out of the shell that we're all in when we start off. Like, very few people want to talk about something like this at the beginning. But would you agree with me if I said, Hallie, you first, if I said sharing mental illness is a skill that you get better at every time you do it?
100%. When you're first diagnosed, or even before a diagnosis and you don't know what's wrong with you, it is so hard to talk about because you can't describe your feelings. Like, it took me months to figure out, how do I put depression into words, and how do I explain that to people who have never experienced it? And even to this day, like, I still find it hard, but each day, the more I talk about it, it gets easier.
You too, Ash?
Yeah, I would say like I still don't know, like, 'cause especially for like, yes, me and Hallie are both diagnosed with with depression, though it is different for both of us. And I think like it's really hard to explain. Like even like I don't even understand what I'm feeling sometimes. And yeah, like I'd say it definitely does get better, but it is somewhat of a rocky road at the beginning.
You know, what you both just said is is like something that we all experience, and that is when someone asks you like, what is depression? What does depression feel like? It's really difficult to describe that kind of pain, because it's not pain like you had a tooth taken out, or you had, you went and you got cavity filled, and your dentist, like dentists are apt to do. Oh, I'm not going to freeze this. We don't need it. It's just a tiny cavity. And then you're going, God, it's killing me. But you can explain that kind of pain. If you had to try, how would you say, how does depression feel to you, Hallie?
I find depression is very crippling. It takes away from everything you want to do. It takes away from my social life, school, mealtime, all of that. It just fully consumes me. Mm-hmm. So I just think it's like, just a monster in a way.
Yeah. And that's a great explanation. The pressure is now on you, Ashley, because she had a really good explanation. But what does it feel like to you?
For me, I feel like it's somewhat as if I'm like being like trapped by someone, kind of like somewhat like a monster, but it's like almost like it's like a feeling that like takes over my whole body, and I don't know why I'm sad, and I could be crying, or it gets like triggered by like one, like if something's not put in like the right place, I could just have like a full like crying mental breakdown. Like I think it's just a bunch of things that add up for me, but it's also like a wave of something like hanging over top of your head that you like can't get away.
You guys did a great job of explaining it, better than almost anyone I've heard, because depression is just a really tough thing to explain. I find that my go-to, I have 4 things that I often talk about, and especially if I spoke at your school once a couple of years ago. Probably a lot of people are still talking about it. I'm thinking you guys went, oh my God, that was like a great day in the chapel. I'm kidding, by the way. So I explain depression this way, that first of all, it's the loss of the ability to experience joy. It's not like you don't have things in your life that you like. It's not like, your life necessarily has fallen apart, but you can't feel anything. You can't feel good. And that, makes it pretty tough to get out of bed. At least that's how I find it. Also, loss of self-esteem. I'm not the same person when I'm depressed than I am right now. I mean, I feel good right now, and therefore I got total confidence in myself to be able to do the things that I know I can do. There's the sense of loneliness also that most of us experience, and also this sense of hopelessness, which we all kind of think, oh God, I'm going to be the only one that, or one of the few that doesn't get better. And it just really helps to hear someone else say all of that. And I loved chatting with you guys. Can you hang on for a bit? But you can tell me who's the next guest? You guys know the next guest, right? You know Emily.
Yeah.
Well, you guys go to school together, and let's welcome Emily. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emily, I know you know those two, and I'm wondering, hey, Emily, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm really good. So you go to school with Hallie and Ashley?
Yeah, I've known Ashley for a very long time, and same with Hallie. Yeah, we go.
So I guess what I'm wondering is, since they just talked about this, when did you first of all, when were you diagnosed, and what was the diagnosis?
I was diagnosed last winter when I was 15 with anxiety and depression.
And what kind of treatment have you gone through, and how are you doing?
So I had a therapist. We've gone through CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm on Prozac, so that's an antidepressant. And that's pretty much the treatment.
And how are you doing?
Well, in the winter, or this year, in around January, I finally got an appointment at Sick Kids. It took about a year to get, which is one of the frustrating parts. And I got put in remission for depression, which is good. So that's an improvement. I still have seasonal depression, but it's not as bad as it was a year ago. And now I have anxiety, and another part of my anxiety is social anxiety.
Right. You know, that social anxiety thing is ridiculously common. And I think even people who've never been diagnosed, there's this thing I always kind of equate it to walking into a room filled with people. Let's say it's a party, and you're like just about to open the door, and you think, I don't want to go in there, right? You know, like I people are going to look at me, and I'm not going to know what to say. Is that how it manifests itself in you?
Yeah. It's just like social anxiety to me is like a fear of judgment. It's not when I'm comfortable with a person. It's mainly like that, where I'm afraid of judgment from like some of the closest people to me. Just because that's what worries me, is I don't want that judgment, but especially like people my age, all that type of stuff. That's what I'm afraid of. So yeah, going to parties, or seeing people and in a social situation, I love doing it. It's like where I thrive sometimes, but it's also like in my head. I don't say it out loud or do anything. In my head, that's where I'm always constantly thinking.
Yeah, Emily, I have to tell you that my experience doing this, and even over the last, one sec, Case, what show is this number? 58? 59. So 59 shows in the last 3 months, which means we've talked to probably 120 guests. And you would be amazed at how many people say, I have social anxiety.
Yeah.
So that room filled with people that you and I are going, oh God, I don't know if I want to walk in that room.
Yeah.
Is actually filled with people who thought the same thing when they walked into that room. You don't know what's going on in somebody else's head, but it would help to know what's going on in someone else's head. Then you could go, me too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest part about it.
So when did you find out about Hallie and Ashley? You say you've known those guys for a long time.
Hallie and I actually used to talk. I don't know if Hallie remembers this, but we would talk about it in math class. This is before either of us were diagnosed with anything. It was a while ago, actually. Just mostly about the anxious part and kind of related on that. But we've known about each other, but it's not like I don't talk to people a lot about it. Like even some of my closest friends don't. I've never like told them the full thing. It's just, to me, it's like, I'll do this type of stuff, but I don't really talk to some of my friends about it. It's just not something.
You know, there's something about talking to your laptop that is easier than looking somebody in the eyes. But you know, I was saying to Hallie and Ashley, I'm just really proud of the fact that I remember everybody's name, and that is, I'm so proud of that. And don't go start to point out that on Zoom your names are actually written in there. Okay, right. I'm doing this by looking into the camera. See, I'm not looking down. And you know what I'm saying, Fern? Kidding. So I guess what I was saying was that, you know, when I was talking to those two guys about it, we were talking about the benefit of being able to share with someone.
Yeah.
And do you have that person that allows you the freedom to really express how challenging this has been?
Well, personally, I mainly go to my mom about it because we can relate about it with anxiety and stuff. So that's my main person, and she's easy, but I wouldn't say I have like one person out of my friends that I go to like all the time, just because I just don't, but I go to my mom about all that stuff.
And did your mom, has she experienced any of the things that you're talking about?
Yeah.
And that makes her really unbelievably suited to listen to you.
Yeah.
So my son has anxiety, and in some ways, exactly the same thing. Like we both have this fear of throwing up. There's actually a phobia called emetophobia.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I wouldn't ride on a bus to camp. I wouldn't sit in the middle of an aisle in a movie theater because I was afraid that I was going to throw up, even though I never did, because my fear of throwing up made me, no matter what, not throw up. But that kind of, led me in my life and prevented me from doing things. And then when my son was like 4 years old and he said the same sort of thing, it was like, okay, well, I know how you feel. And that's a really powerful thing to be able to say.
Yeah. I'll tell people know about it, but it's not like if I have something wrong that I go to them, just because I walk upstairs and talk to my mom. But
yeah, well, first of all, somebody that understands you. And the reason why I asked you that, and this is going to, I don't know quite how to express this. Okay, I was kidding. I know exactly how to express this. I think that as a parent, so much of how you respond to your child's illness, whether it's physical or mental or both, so much of it comes down to wishful thinking. And if you haven't been through it, you start to say things like, oh, you seem like you're doing a lot better. And then you might say to your mom, no, not really. And then if she didn't understand, she might say, oh, no, you seem like you're good. I think you're really doing better. Or you should go out and you should, go out with your friends. And that's advice that never helped anybody with depression, but makes sense to her. Not your mom, but people in general.
Yeah.
So, in this crappy illness that you have, is like balanced off at least by the fact that you have someone around you who really understands you.
Yeah. And definitely not that I don't feel supported by my friends. It's just the way that I like to deal with it is different than everyone else. Well, everyone deals with it differently, obviously, but and I deal with it in more of like I keep it to myself, but I make myself super busy by doing things with other people.
What does I asked your two friends, Hallie and Ashley, what depression feels like to them? What does it feel like to you?
It just makes me feel really lonely and by myself, and so I'm not able to the most frustrating part of depression to me is that I don't understand why I'm feeling this way. And so that's just like the questioning and the thinking and the overthinking by yourself. That's to me what depression feels like, and just feeling lonely and like no one understands you really.
Absolutely. Those are all really strong and powerful. And, from a guy who's experienced it longer than you've been alive, I can tell you that is bang on. And, one of the things is that I could tell from how you were phrasing it, you start to blame yourself. You expect more of yourself. You go, well, why am I like this? Like what gives me the right to feel like this? Because, I have, looks like a nice room and you go to a great school. And that guilt deprives us of actually being sympathetic to ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I have sympathy for you and you may have sympathy for me, but I don't have sympathy for me and you may not have sympathy for you. Did that all make sense?
Yeah.
Will you hang on? Because do you know Jacob? He's our next guest.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, he is now you are with Unsinkable, right?
Yeah.
And Unsinkable is this amazing charity that was, I guess, started by Sulkin Lauman, one of our greatest athletes and just a wonderful person who just has always appeared to have her heart in the right place. And so Jacob, who we're going to hear from now, is actually an ambassador with Unsinkable. So let's go to Jacob right now. All right, Jacob, I've been waiting to talk to you. I'm sort of break it to you. I read an article about you, and you said you had the greatest dog on the planet, Sadie. Will you accept Sadie being tied for the greatest dog with my dog, Wrigley?
I think I can accept that.
Yeah, give us a shot of Sadie. I know that Sadie's right beside you.
She's just taking a little nap after her long sleep.
Yeah, and I know that you're a swimmer, right? So should I assume your dog paddles your thing? You see the way I tied the two together?
She loves swimming, but she doesn't like staying in water very long. So she'll grip onto me and then scratch me.
And that's how you've gotten to be a stronger swimmer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, thanks for doing this. You're an ambassador for Unsinkable, which is really cool. How old are you?
I'm 16.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were conversing before and I'm thinking, wow, when I was 16, I was scared of my shadow. And you've just unfortunately, you've had to live so much. Your dad took his own life, and that kind of left you wanting to do something. What was it that motivated you to say, okay, things need to change?
My dad wasn't receiving the support that he really needed during his depression. He would go to hospitals, doctors, and none of it would really help. He was prescribed medication that wasn't working, and his condition was just getting worse and worse. And I noticed that every time he would go to the hospital, he would get sent home, even if we had proof of him feeling suicidal. And I thought that was ridiculous because we had proof that he wasn't wanting to live, and the hospitals and doctors didn't care about that. And I knew I needed to do something.
So before we talk about what you're going to do, did he use the word suicide around you?
No, he was very quiet about feeling that way. He wouldn't admit it. I wasn't really familiar with that topic as much as like my mom was during that time. And so I wasn't really thinking about that. But yeah, he didn't really bring it up much around me.
And, from having read your story, Jacob, he suffered from an illness, right? Tell us about his illness.
So he had clinical depression, and he had severe anxiety.
You know who also had that or has that?
Who?
Take a guess. He's in this conversation.
Well, it's not Phil, so I'm going to guess Michael.
Yeah. Phil doesn't get to appear on camera, just so you know. Phil pushes the buttons. If he shows up on camera, hell to pay. Yeah, I've suffered from severe anxiety, severe depression, and while I have never been suicidal, I have understood why people take their own lives. And it's so important for people like you left behind to understand, right, that it's not that he wanted to leave, it's that he was in so much pain. I thought you expressed that really well.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. He didn't want to. It was, I'd say it was the depression that made him. Knowing my dad before he was sick, he was the happiest man and would never even think about doing something like that. And so it was just something totally off.
So how long ago did he die?
It'll be 2 years in September.
So that's 2 years ago. How many years ago did you notice something was different, something was off about him?
It was the summer or the weekend I left before I went to summer camp. He wouldn't get out of bed to say goodbye to me, and I noticed that was not like him, and that's when I knew that something was really off.
Yeah, but I mean, something like depression and anxiety is really hard for anyone to understand who hasn't been through it. Maybe impossible to understand what depression is, like why your dad wouldn't want to get out of bed. You must have been crazy confused because how old were you then?
14.
So you were 14. Am I right that you would have had like no way to really understand it?
Yeah, you're right. I was very confused and shocked.
So you decided that your dad did not get good enough care, and that, do you believe that he would be alive if he had gotten better care?
I don't know. I know that people who are suicidal, if they want to end their life, they will. It's not like if we stopped him from doing it that one day, he may have done it the next. Like, there's no way of really stopping someone that's feeling that bad. And I feel like if he would have been admitted into a hospital, there could have been a small chance, but even like the hospitals aren't doing much.
Yeah, I run into this every single day from people in mental health, that there's just, if your dad had a heart condition, he would have gotten in to see a cardiologist the next day. So what's the plan? I know you and your mom have put together something that I think is amazing. Tell us about it.
So me and my mom founded the Konan Fund. So it's a nonprofit charity fund that donates money to nonprofit organizations that support mental health. We gather funds from like people that are willing to donate, and then we do our research and donate them out to places that really need the money. And we mainly donate to the places that are like immediate. So if someone needs to see a psychiatrist within a day rather than in a month, or like someone that needs to see a doctor rather than like waiting 2 weeks, they can go the next day. Learning about their mental illness, you know, learning how they can cope. And that's somewhere we put a lot of our money to.
So you said that you were 16. Is it possible you're lying? You just look really young and you're 35? Because, you know, do you think that, you know, part of your obvious maturity is based on, or your ability to communicate is based on the fact that you're clearly a really smart kid. But is part of it also the fact that, you know, you've been forced to grow up faster than, you know, anyone should be?
Yeah, I think that not having my dad in my life after the age of 14 has really forced me to become kind of like the man of the house. My mom is like amazing, and, you know, she's like supportive and she can do almost everything, but I also feel like I need to be there to do some of the things my dad isn't able to do now. And so it's really forced me and made me into the person I am today. And I also have to thank my dad for that, because for 14 years of my life, he showed me how to be an amazing person.
Jacob, if somebody's watching and they want to help out, how do they find you guys?
So we have our website, konanfund.org, and there is a page there where you can contact us if there are volunteer positions available. We do post them on our website and on our social media pages.
And how you doing?
Right now, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. You know, there's some ups and downs, but I'm actually doing pretty good right now.
Konan, was that your dad's name?
That was his nickname, actually. You know, like Conan the Barbarian.
Right.
So he was known as Konan in high school for being like a really popular big guy. And that was a nickname that followed him all the way until he passed away. And so we knew that it would be something like very like close to home and very like memorable if we used Konan in the charity's name.
Well, really memorable, as are you. And we should do something together, because you have, you know, my goal is to get the word out there, and you are ridiculously good at getting the word out there. So let's keep in touch, man.
Thank you so much, Michael.
I'm kidding. I was just pretending that I was muted, because it's really good TV guy type of humor. So Jacob and Emily and Hallie and Ashley and Fern taught me so much. I feel like the last 45 minutes I've learned more about mental illness, and even about my own, before in a way that I never really experienced. So hold on, guys. I know that you're all back with us, but we have a theme song. We have this guy, Sean Cullen. Oh my God, it's Sean Cullen. He does a song for us every day. Yesterday, we had two people on, Sam Parker and Tyson Williams. Each one has experienced serious depression, and each one probably are still alive because they heard somebody sharing. Here's Sean. Take it, Sean.
It's a nation in isolation. It's a nation in isolation. It's a difficult situation. It's a nation in isolation. Don't let sadness make an infiltration.
I was exhausted.
You're all alone, think it's the end.
It was more like I'm such a burden.
It really isn't. Just call a friend.
It was make a phone call or die.
Somebody's there.
I think I'd be more worried about it if he wasn't talking about it.
Someone who cares.
You feel like you're the only person.
You can do it. Just try to share, yeah.
Talking has been my medicine.
It's a nation in isolation. It's a difficult situation.
I knew I needed help, and I knew I had to make a call to someone.
It's a nation in isolation. Make every day a day of celebration.
Had you not answered, I don't know if I'd still be around.
Make every day a day of celebration, yeah.
When you're in that dark of a hole, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
When I got out of the hospital, I set myself up with a therapist, and it just walk out feeling better.
That was yesterday's show, and Tyson Williams and Sam Parker, two guys with really amazing stories. So let's count them up. Let's see, 2 yesterday and 5 today. All right, private school kids, you must be able to answer this. If not, your parents are wasting their money. Thank you so much to all of you for doing this. I'd just like to hear, Fern. What do you feel like you learned anything today from the other people talking?
I don't know. My brain takes a little while to process things, so I'll probably realize it tomorrow or when I'm trying to sleep tonight.
Well, or repeat after me. Oh my God, Michael, I learned so much from hearing you. Go ahead. You could say that. I'm kidding. Thank you for doing this. Emily, what is the experience of hearing other people, even though you know 2 of them, what has this been like for you?
It's really cool because there's things you can relate with, and there's other things that are different than other people. Although lots of people have depression, lots of people have anxiety. You get to see how it's different for everyone and how they cope through it, and that's helpful to me because that also gives me ways and strategies to try myself.
Where's the dog, by the way? Piper?
Downstairs.
Oh, how long would it take you to get Piper?
Not very long. You want me to get her?
Okay. Yeah, you go get Piper, and I'm going to ask Hallie and Ashley.
Right.
Same question. What did you learn from hearing people share candidly their own struggles, which in many ways resemble yours?
Yeah. I think it really just reminds me that I'm not alone, and that there are so many people going through the same thing, and that everyone needs someone to have a shoulder to lean on or someone to call in times that are hard. So I think it's just nice to know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
Ash?
Like for me, like I think it was great because especially like that we're all like youth, like we're all like pretty young. Like I think it's great that like
Well, I'm in my 30s, so like obviously I'm. You think that's funny? What are you laughing at? Keep going, Ash.
I just think it's like great that like we're all like it's not just like.
Well, that was unless you guys have actually frozen in one position. I didn't hear what you said, Ash.
I just think it's great that like we're like because I feel like a lot of the things that I hear online are about like older like people that are like not like teens, I would say like experiencing mental health. So I think it was great to hear that like we're not alone. Exactly what I said.
Ashley, I just I'll be really wishing for you that those meds kick in and you can feel the joy that we all deserve in our lives in the near future. And it can be such a frustrating situation, but you'll get there, even though everyone tells you that. I've been through it. I know what it's like for meds not to work, and I know what it's like for them to work. So thanks for this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hallie.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You guys were awesome. And look at the dog. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Piper and Emily. Piper. What kind of dog is Piper?
A Konan de Tulier.
Oh my gosh. Piper. Can Piper hear me now? Like, I don't know if you have earphones in. Piper.
Here.
It's a he, right?
Girl.
Who's a good girl, Piper? I don't know. I didn't want to say that. It just comes out. Who's a good girl? It's ridiculous how we say to our dogs all the time, like in the case of Wrigley, who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? It's like, shut up, Michael. Everybody knows he's a good boy. Thanks, guys. To all of you. Fern, thank you so much. What a pleasure meeting you. And you know what? Call me for the YouTube channel and we'll do an interview and you'll have to ask me the questions.
Something that made me think while you guys are talking is about how you don't see a lot of teens is I've recently had to transition from the child and adolescent to the adult mental health system, and that's been a bit of a road. So if you guys want, I'm here.
That's nice. And I'm here too. So let's all, well, we have to have a reunion sometime. So we'll
Yeah.
do that. And I anticipate we'll all come back with green hair because it's working for you. And, you know, hopefully it'll work for me. That's it for today. Love this. Love the experience. We'll see you on Monday on Isolation Nation.
Thank you.
Thank you.